Welcome back to Not Another Ecom podcast. My name is Georgie and I'll be taking over as host, where we will be digging into the real stories, wins, fails, and aha moments behind building a business on marketplaces like Walmart and Amazon. I'm super excited for the lineup of guests that we'll be having on this podcast. I'm really excited to get to know everyone a little bit better. Hey everyone, welcome back to Not Another Ecom podcast. My name is Georgie and I'll be taking over as host. We're going to be digging into the real stories, wins, fails, aha moments behind building a business on marketplaces like Amazon and Walmart. And today we've got a very special guest who's not only been in the trenches, but actually built a solution to one of the biggest headaches sellers face, handling removal orders. Izrael is the founder of Emerald Management. He's been selling on Amazon for years. He knows the challenges firsthand, and now he helps sellers recover more value from their unfulfillable, stranded, and excess inventory without them lifting a finger. So we're going to talk to him about his journey from selling his first product to building a removal order management service, the big lessons he's learned, the practical tips, and of course the failures too, if he has anything to share. And stick around to the end because Izrael has a free credit for just our listeners to try out for a service. So trust me, you want to hear to the end. So hi, Izrael. Welcome to Not Another Ecom podcast. I'm really excited to chat with you today. How's it going?
Hi, thank you so much for having me today, Georgie.
Yeah, me too. So I'd just like to start, get to know you a little bit better. Just share with me your story, those early days. What do they look like? Help me visualize it. So do you remember the first thing you sold? Do you remember, oh, okay, could this actually work? Like, were you excited, nervous? Just talk to me.
Right. It was definitely a thing I just dove into. Like many sellers, we all start with retail arbitrage and then online arbitrage and then dive into wholesale. So I did start with retail arbitrage, going to like local stores, sourcing, seeing what's out there, scanning the items. I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. And then sent off a shipment. It's like, oh, wow, this actually sold. This could actually be something. I didn't know it was like that fast. It kind of just clicked when you get your first sale. And then going down to online arbitrage, you have the big online stores with the discounts, using all that. And then I saw a product that I didn't really know what it was, and this is where I really got into the niche products and very just niche items. I essentially saw a product on one of my storefronts that I was stalking that we all do, and I didn't know what it was, but I was like, how does it sell? So I opened the page, I saw the keep, I saw the seller ramp, I saw that it does sell, but it's like very niche. There's not like 100 sellers on it. There's like 3 or 4, but the price is consistent. It's not tanking. You see the seller count. It's like steady. It's like, okay, let's see if I can get this. And I could. The thing is, it was not a pretty product. It was not like something everyone would go after. It doesn't sell 10,000 units a month. It sells maybe 100. Then I realized, hey, if I can get a couple of these, that's pretty good. The other side of it is Amazon doesn't really look at these products too much as they would with like Nike, Adidas, all these bigger brands.
So that you can like fly under the radar a bit more.
Right. And you got a better chance of avoiding those IP complaints and, every other complaint that could come your way. I would say every listing that you inspect and see if it's worth selling, it's a risk mitigator. It's like, okay, there's so many things you could look at. Does the brand match the item? Does the manufacturer match, the brand? Does the title make sense? Like if it says 2-pack of 2 or 3 or 4, and is the picture clear enough to depict it? You have to look at it from a consumer side. Is there a risk of not getting what you want, and then kind of gauging that risk? It's like, how many returns am I going to get? How likely am I to just get kicked off this listing? That type of thing. Because essentially what happens is if you get returns, if it's like not as described, Amazon could take that in a couple ways. It's like, okay, you shipped it wrong, not as described, could be potentially fake, and that's when the problems go down the road. But essentially, with these niche products, I found it also much easier to build relationships with suppliers, because with these bigger branded products, you're really going after the biggest suppliers that also everyone is going after. So the trick here was to look where nobody's looking, and there have been so many benefits of doing that. I will say it is a bit harder with those products.
What do you mean by harder?
Harder, I mean finding those products and kind of getting it to click, because it didn't click right away. It's like, I don't even know what I'm selling. This doesn't seem like the normal way of going, selling. Like,
You're going against the grain.
right,
You're
going
trying something new. Yeah.
exactly, and it just doesn't feel right until you prove the concept to yourself, and it does. A lot of the other sellers, they do pitch, brand direct and niche and, stuff where nobody's looking. And I'll tell you, that's where real money is made.
Awesome. I mean, it's always scary going in at the beginning kind of blind, and then afterwards having like evidence coming afterwards rather than the other way around, where you're basically following the grain and then you'll have like, evidence at the beginning, but you might not have as much, impact afterwards. So it's actually a pretty brave, approach that you're having. So what are some of the biggest lessons that you learned? Like, were there any tricky bits at the beginning where you felt like they were, really risky and you made a mistake, or there were any disasters? Is there anything that kind of, comes to mind?
Right. Even in the niche category, there are some risky products, items that are more of the bigger brands. And that's the brands that I really generally wanted to avoid, stuff where I could see Amazon is on other listings. It's like a duplicate of a bigger listing. That's generally the items that I wanted to avoid. And again, it really came down to having a checklist, and you're not always going to check all the boxes, but you can, to a point where you could say, okay, I think this is fine. It's all a risk mitigator and factor, and how many boxes can you check out of all of them?
So, like, obviously this is a very niche section, like removal orders, like, when did you first realize that this was like a headache for sellers or for yourself? Like, if you were talking to somebody who doesn't know anything about removal orders, doesn't know anything about this, like for dummies like me, talk to me about why this is a headache and what the initial challenges you or sellers face.
Right. Before I even get into removal orders, I'm going to take it way back to how the idea of just excess inventory generally clicked for me. So I was in my prep center one day. I go there a lot sometimes to drop off orders. Well, used to, not so much anymore. But they were also Amazon sellers, and they had a bin of just the stuff that they were selling that they didn't want anymore because they were focusing on their 3PL business. We had a pretty good relationship. So I just stopped them and I said, what do you guys like have in there? What are you guys like throwing away? Because that was a bid that was like, they wanted it to get out of there, because space is such a big thing for warehouses to have. It's a commodity, seriously. So I saw what they were throwing away, and it was like good branded products, like vitamins. It's like not the niche stuff, bigger like branded stuff, but all new condition, all like good condition, maybe some makeup here and there. And I was like, okay, I have some experience selling on eBay. Let me try to sell it. And within a couple of weeks I did, and all it really took was the warehouse to just fulfill the orders because it was at the warehouse. So we kind of created a system that way. So from there, I had an idea. If my warehouse had a problem with excess inventory, even though they were Amazon sellers, they did give me other excess inventory. Hey, can you like sell this, sell this, sell this? From a number of reasons, a client abandoned them. They took on the inventory, stopped paying invoices. They just have this stuff here. They'd rather get more money out of it than going to a liquidator, because they knew it was worth a lot more money. So they gave that to me to resell, and it's worked pretty well, and it's still working well now. So again, the idea clicked in my head. If my warehouse had that problem, I'm sure every other warehouse in the country, in the world, has that problem.
So
So,
it really came from like a real pain point you were having, and then you were like, I need to solve this for others.
right.
Like, this is how amazing ideas are made. So it's really awesome to hear it's coming from that source.
Right. So I didn't start working with Amazon sellers. After that idea, I started working with warehouses across the country. I would reach out to every warehouse, every 3PL that I knew and pitch the idea. Do you have excess inventory? They're like, yeah, you want to buy it? I'm like, no, here's what I want to do. Send me a list of what you have. I'm going to list it on our eBay store. We're going to sell it. You'll ship it out and we split the profit. So that does a couple of things. One, if we sell it, we got a lot more money than having to liquidate it for pennies on the dollar. Number two, we save the cost of shipping it freight LTL from A to B, which already just throws away a bunch of money. And three, you'll get a lot more money back if we do get to sell it. If the item is like sellable, branded, goes well on eBay, has a high sell-through rate, we'll get a lot more money back than general liquidation, which you could use to pay back, invoices that weren't collected, things like that. A lot of things you could do here. So a lot of warehouses were surprised by that. A lot of no's, but also a lot of yeses. But those yeses turn into long-term clients where they're constantly giving you excess inventory. So essentially, we become like a micro client of theirs, which is great.
And so did you start then speaking about it with other sellers after that and like asking them whether they were also struggling with the same thing? Or did you kind of keep it like more hush hush, like develop it internally and then start, promoting it? Did you gauge with your peers, basically, what I'm asking?
Right, right. What's the interesting thing is the idea of the removal orders didn't even come to me until I went down to my garage and saw a pile of like 20 boxes in the corner of my room and started getting to those, starting reselling, actually getting to the excess inventory. Like everyone says they're going to get to it, but they never do. So then that idea clicked into my head where I said, oh my God, if I have this problem, I completely forgot about the biggest market out there, the Amazon sellers, Walmart sellers, every e-commerce seller that's dealing with the things that they don't want to deal with, which is the stranded, unfulfillable excess inventory that's in the corner of our garages, in the corner of our warehouses, and still worth a ton of money, but we don't want to work.
It's a brick wall. Like, not only do you not want to deal with it, but also you don't even know how to deal with it. So that's where you come in. I guess my question to you is, what are some of the differences that you've seen within the different marketplaces? Obviously, our platform, we have Walmart, Amazon, eBay sellers, we have everyone. What are some of the main challenges or, differences that you face on each?
Sure. So Amazon is much different from Walmart. Walmart is much different from Amazon. eBay much different than both of those. They're all completely separate companies, completely separate algorithms. When a seller decides they want to hop on Walmart, you're starting from the complete beginning because every day you're going to learn something. I still learn things every day about Amazon. I still learn things every day about eBay. I'm more of a eBay seller right now, also on Amazon. But what's interesting about eBay, we don't know how much it's going to sell per month, even if it's going to sell per month, because it's really about how the algorithm, gets your listings to viewers. With Amazon, it's only one listing and you're hopping on as a seller. But with eBay, you have multiple listings from different sellers. So it's a completely different type of selling. You see the sellers line by line by line. It's like their items. You search up an item. But with Amazon, you see the item there, and then you see the going price for it, things like that. And that goes without saying that Amazon has a much larger volume and sell-through rate and things like that. But there is still a lot to do on eBay, still a lot to do on Walmart.
It's really interesting to me all the time, understanding the differences. It's also interesting to me to understand like how something that is such a massive issue hasn't yet been addressed. So this is where you come in. What would happen? Let's be catastrophizing for a second. What would happen if a seller didn't go down the route with you? And, like, how much money would you project that they could be losing?
Right. I wouldn't even put it in terms of money. I would put it, in terms of time. Say the seller was doing it themselves. It's really, if you look at it from broad scope, when you're doing it that way and you're dealing with it yourself, you're dealing with like maybe like a $5 per hour task when you're trying to resell the excess stuff. And which still has its own problems if you don't have a system, because now you're dealing with a different marketplace. Now you're opening boxes. Now you got to inspect inventory. You have to take pictures. You have to list it. The list goes on and on and on. And you're dealing with like new customers from a completely different platform. So it's really the difference of a $5 per hour task and the $50 per hour task, which would be used to negotiate with suppliers, better rates, create new connections, buy new inventory, which is what everyone wants to focus on anyway. The other thing I could say is, all the removal orders, they're going to come in, they're just going to collect dust. So that's money that could be used, to get back to you with our service, to pay back your suppliers, to pay back credit card, because in this capital intensive business, every dollar amount counts. And, that's where our service comes in. With Amazon, you have a choice. You could either dispose it through Amazon, you could liquidate it for pennies on the dollar, or you could get it sent back to you. So with our service, it's very simple. You don't get it sent back to you. You just get it sent back to us, and we take care of it from there. And that surprises a lot of sellers. They're like, that's it? And yes, that's it. We take it from there.
It's like, I can imagine how many sellers would just right now be understanding that that's a dream. And like, from our platform, we have a lot of sellers who just have no idea that there's anything to do with this. So this is obviously really exciting. But let's zoom out for a second. I want to get to know you as a business leader, understanding, what makes you tick, what gets you motivated every day. Let's just go into that for a second.
Right. I think this is a very small niche I attacked. We've seen, even in the news, like CNBC even posted about this, the return cycle is so disruptive. The amount of inventory that's being produced but not really sold, but even disposed of, creating waste, things like that, is astronomical. There's brands being made every day. The amount of production that there is really astronomical. So that's why we see a lot of these discount stores, things like that. There's just so much inventory in the world right now. But I think my sector right now is Amazon and Walmart sellers. I want to go after everybody. I want to do removal order management for every Amazon seller, for every Walmart seller, because I think our service is that great. It's just so hands off. Even when sellers on board, they're like, okay, let's try this out. I'll let you know if I have any questions. After a month or two, they're literally just getting payouts every month, and they forget that the service even exists because we're just taking care of everything from there. And, my goal is to work with every Amazon seller that's doing wholesale, retail arbitrage, online arbitrage, selling on Walmart, help them with removal orders, but also help them with stranded inventory when Amazon or Walmart comes at them and says, hey, you can't sell this product, things like that, which we have been seeing a lot in the past. So there's a lot of ways that I can help out, but it all revolves around excess inventory, just stuff that nobody wants to deal with.
Do you think that you would have been interested in this area if you hadn't been an Amazon seller, Walmart seller to begin with? Do you think that this journey kind of started there and then it kind of moved in from that direction? Or do you think that you could have probably found this the other way around?
I don't think so. I think every great idea kind of just comes to you, kind of clicks. I've always been, any industry I've been in, I always try to niche down, try to find the missing piece, something like that. No, I don't think I would have seen it. It's really just been a great journey of that wow moment, that realizing it and just capitalizing on that problem, where it's also such a specific problem. And from there, you could get even to even more specific problems that don't seem big at first, but can really grow over time.
So, like, what does it feel like when you really, really help a seller remove this headache? Does it like, is it a, because there's something that makes you want to do it over and over again, right? And it's something that I'm sensing from you that it's not just, about wanting to create a business, it's also wanting to help and support other people in a process that you probably needed when you were way back in your early years of Amazon and Walmart selling. So, what is it? Like, is it like, do you remember the first time that you like that a seller was like really helped by you? And like, I'm sure that might have stuck with you. I'm just curious to know what that experience is like.
Right. And I mean, I will say it feels great when the seller sees the value in the service. And I know everything's good when I don't really ever hear from them. I've had sellers I'm working with that I don't really like talk to as much, but their stuff still comes in. They trust in the service.
It's the same as Snap. Like, we also have this as well. Like, sellers who are with us for ages and we never hear from them until they're, renewing a contract or something like that. So it's a good sign. But continue. I interrupted you.
Absolutely. So, yeah, right now I'm trying to work with a lot of sellers, trying to do maybe some promotions, working together, trying to get other sellers on board just to spread the word about this service. And, we're having a lot of fun doing that and doing some fun things down the road.
So what is down the road for you? Like, what is like within the industry, within your specific niche industry and the wider industry, what gets you excited? What's your, obviously you don't need to share with me your whole vision, but I guess I'm curious to know what keeps you motivated every day where you're looking.
Right. I feel if you're in any industry, even as an Amazon seller, it really takes like maybe one or two products, one or two clients to like make that big difference. So right now, it's been hard. I'm not gonna say it hasn't, but I'm really going after like giant Amazon sellers, ones that are doing maybe $1 million months, like things like that. Things that have not things, sellers that have direct like brand relationships with like huge brands, things like that. Maybe, who knows, maybe they don't have a service for like removal orders. Maybe they just do liquidation. I'm trying to get my foot in the door with those sellers because from there, that's really the next step to making this like what it should be.
Awesome. And within the, e-commerce space as well, like what also gets you excited in the wider space? Like, is there a specific niche area separate to the business that you've created that like also gets you up in the morning? I'd love to hear if there's a specific software that you're using that you're like, wow, this has changed the game in the last year. Israel, I really want to understand the process of how it works, the emerald management. Like, how would you, if a seller was coming to you and they had excess stranded inventory, how would you help them from, the beginning step?
Right. A lot of sellers, when they come to me and they want to onboard, they usually say, hey, I have a lot of stuff in my home or warehouse that I'm going to send over to you first. And I'm also going to set the removal order address to you guys. So first we got like a bunch of stuff that's like theirs from their home. Perfect. Send that over. Then all the removal orders come to us. So essentially how it works is, we're receiving these removal orders every day. How it works is we're opening them up, inspecting it. We're taking a picture of that slip, the Amazon slip, to identify the client and a picture of the item. That essentially gets listed into our software where our VAs go in and match them up to the client, list them on eBay, other third-party marketplaces, things like that. So then things sell, we fulfill, we take care of everything at that point. There are 2 sheets that sellers get. One spreadsheet is just showing all the items that come in, all the quantity, all of the items, all the conditions, new or used, and all the links that we post on our eBay store. The other sheet that we send out once a month is just the monthly statement showing all the orders, all the fees, all the shipping costs, and essentially the payout and why that payout is what it is.
Awesome. It sounds like a very simple and easy process to enter into for our sellers. So that's really cool. So is there any other softwares that you're using, anything that stands out when it comes to, promoting your journey, you know, in this
Right.
in this process for
I will
yourself?
say, absolutely. I will say, even starting out, I was a very like systematized person. I need to have a system for everything I do. That's one of the reasons I even started this service, is because there was no systems for removal orders and excess inventory, which is also a very big thing. There's reimbursements, there's also repricing. So I will say that when I met you at Miami Sellers Conference, I was moving away from Amazon just because I didn't like my monthly statements, how it was looking and all that. And I didn't know that SellerSnap could actually change that and alter that a little bit. So I did try you guys out for a month, and now I think we're 3 months in, things like something like that. And I've been using you guys ever since, and I've been gradually getting back into Amazon. Just, every seller will know this, replenishing all the stuff that's been selling, getting all the suppliers back in, and it's been great so far. I was worried, one, about, the price point, because I was like, I'm not that big a seller, but no, it's been great. It does pay itself back 100%. I would not look at the price point at all. It does pay itself back with profits, and it'll take you to the next step. It's been great.
It's really awesome to hear because I think that both of our, products and companies have the same goal, which is to make life easier for people. So it sounds like we're aligned on that. So that's really awesome to hear. And I guess to kind of summarize, I would love to know what the best and the worst, we can start with the worst piece of business advice you've ever received, and the best. We can do it like a SellerSnap sign off. What comes to mind? And you have to do it in less than one sentence or one sentence. So we're going to finish out with a SellerSnap sign off. I'm going to ask you what the worst piece of advice you've ever received in your process, in your journey, and also we'll finish with the best to leave it on a positive note. Anything that comes to mind?
Oh my God, to put me on the spot, thinking. I won't even answer that question with like the worst business advice I received. I've never had something where I was like, that's a terrible idea. Something like that. But I will answer it, from what I hear a lot of anybody that's trying to get into any business, even starting on Amazon. It's the fear factor of like, oh, well, I need this. It's like too dominated. It's too saturated. All these excuses. And I will say that you do figure it out as you go along. Even when I was starting the service, I didn't know it would get, as big as it has, which will segue into something else where it's probably the best advice, where, speed, and you figure it out along the way. If there's an opportunity, go at it fast. Stop wasting time. You don't need a beautiful website. You don't need that. Do the important stuff and do it fast. Capitalize it. Go fast, because time is against us constantly. And the more you test out, the more you go, the better it'll get there. So even I'll say with my service, it was like, go, go, go. I've learned so much doing this. I feel I got really good at outreach. I feel I got really good at identifying a problem, just the whole scope of, starting a business and, growing it and seeing like the best way to grow it, and just different types of outreach, all the social media platforms. I know any Amazon seller that's watching this, you've most likely got a DM from me on some sort of platform, whether it be X, Instagram, or even like LinkedIn. I'm starting to get my feet wet with TikTok, but we'll see about that. But yeah, I'll just say keep going. Don't let any roadblocks stop you. You gotta just do it. It's really about the journey.
And it sounds like really letting go of like perfectionism and not needing to be a perfect, perfect in this journey. Like it sounds like learning along the way, giving yourself grace as you mess up, pick yourself up when you fail kind of attitude. So it sounds like a really positive one. Yeah, really, really awesome advice. Let's use this opportunity to plug yourself for a minute. So if you'd like to just tell me or tell us the social media platforms that you flourish on and how people can get in contact with you.
Right. So I'm basically everywhere. I don't advertise it as my business. I advertise it just as my name, just as my personal accounts on X. You'll search me Izrael S98, IZRAELS 98. On Instagram, it's the same thing, Israel S. LinkedIn, you'll find me, Israel. And I believe you'll have that listed in the chat somewhere where people can find me, or you could search me up.
And we'll leave everything so down below as well. So if you forget it, then it's all down below as well.
Right. Feel free to reach out to me. Any questions, anything I can do to help you. I've gotten, any question is not a bad question about excess inventory. I've had questions about stuff that's expired, about things that, that look old, that are discontinued, things like that. We'll be able to figure something out for you.
Is there a specific place where they'll go to like sign up, officially and like, or would you prefer to like book in a demo? How does it work?
Right. So I always just book through Calendly links. It's on my website, shmukler.com. Best way to do it, where I just start off the call just being like, hey, what's up? How can I help you? Really. And it's kind of just goes from there. Just let me know what you're dealing with, who orders, things like that. And we'll go from there.
So don't forget to mention this podcast when you sign up through Emerald Management, because the first $50 Emerald Management is able to get you back. There is no fee. So this is really, really exciting. I just wanted to ask you, is there anything else that you'd like to chat about? Anything that springs to mind as we close up?
Yeah, just every seller, anybody who's watching us, whatever you're doing, just keep going. You'll figure it out. It'll all work out. Trust me. Look into the places where nobody's looking. That's what I did with Amazon. That's what I did with this service, and you'll definitely find some diamonds and hidden gems for sure.
Israel, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your story. It's really given me some practical tips. It's inspired me to keep being creative and to keep on going. So I am very grateful that you joined us on this podcast.
Thank you so much. Great.
Yeah, it's been awesome. So that's it for today, folks. An awesome conversation. Definitely learned a lot, and I hope you did too. Happy selling and have a wicked day. Bye.